Who we kidding, Louisville fans? Mick is not your pick.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast and available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe every day. Hey, we've been talking a lot about football, a little bit of men's basketball, and some women's basketball because it's time for them to dance. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. With new customers joining today, you can get $200 in bonus bets, and your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Where we get started today. All right, it's been the trendy option over the last few weeks. I'm not even sure how long it's been, but the Mick is the pick for Louisville trend. It's got to end right now. All right, let's drop that. All right, I see it's a social media trend. I know Louisville got their football coach when they're hiring for a football coach recently, and it worked out. Mick is not your pick. I know the ties to the area. I know he was coach at Cincinnati. He likes to be all, more Ohio, more Louisville. He's got the connections to that side of the country, right? And I just don't buy it because Mick Cronin, one, I don't believe is leaving UCLA. I have no sources to confirm that. I'm not telling you that factually. I think that's my opinion. Now let's rewind earlier this offseason, right? Craziness ensued. A Power 5 head football coach left to be an offensive coordinator. So literally anything can happen, right? Anything can happen, right? Anything. He could go to Louisville and want to restart. But does he want to start from the ground floor and rebuild a program that needs some resuscitation? That is literally lifeless at the moment. The Louisville program. Great name, everything needs some energy. Or do you want to stay at UCLA, where one bad year doesn't mean we should all turn on Mick, whether it's his antics on the sideline. We can't just turn on everybody if you're a UCLA fan. You can't just go hate Chip Kelly. Everybody's been hating Chip Kelly. Can't go and flip on Martin Germond. You can't just go flip on Mick Cronin. You can't just go start hating everybody. Oh, they hired a coach with no money, and you can't just hate every single thing. That's not a way to live in life. You can't just hate everything. Yes, UCLA did not perform to expectation this season. Doesn't mean Mick should go leave or we should want him to leave. Now, Louisville, they should beat Cardinal fans. They should want him. Now reading and trying to digest what Cardinal fans, experts, even Locked On Louisville's talked about. Mick is the pick. Well, do they want to go after Dusty May? Is there the dream option of them going after, Scott Drew? Who cares? There's other good options out there. Mick is not the pick. Of course, I believe there's a $20 million buyout. And then if you wait between the end of March into 2025 of March, it goes to $16 million. And there's probably loopholes in there where you can wiggle room, where they've got the money with the NIL. And there is the realistic possibility, because Mick Cronin's voiced his frustration, that he does not like the UCLA NIL situation. How is he going to fix this year's team in the next? I think there's good pieces, but you've got to go get the big dogs in the portal, because Movement Monday didn't yield a lot of movement for UCLA. There wasn't a lot of players who stuck their names in the portal that were vital to UCLA leaving the program. There are guys UCLA wants to go get. Top 10 options that aren't even in the portal yet, but will be in the portal when the season's done, surprisingly, right? But that doesn't mean Mick is going to go or should go. UCLA is a job that's great. They're in the Big Ten. Honestly, you could argue maybe conference life's going to be a little bit easier next year. Yes, you can go Purdue, all the whatever. Jalen Andrews, I believe, already said he was locked and he's back. They tweeted that out, whatever it's called. There's pieces I would like to have back, and I talked about Dylan Andrews in one of the more recent Locked On UCLA episodes. His surge during the Pac-12 tournament, if he continues that consistently and with consistency, brings his level that he was at. Doesn't need to be 30 points per game, but if he's closer to 18, or if he's an efficient 15, few assists, drives to the cup, hits some threes at a higher clip, hits all his free throws, man, that's a very good point guard to have. That is even more elite than he was at the end of his sophomore campaign. But that doesn't mean Mick can't turn this team around and make it into a competitor in 2024. That he's going to go to Louisville and all of a sudden try to go revive that program, right? Do you want to have a program that can be supporting, that's going to get a lot of money. It's going to get a lot of money. Do you want to go to the ACC where Clemson and Florida State won out and you're sitting there? Louisville's got a big name. Of course, they got basketball. They got basketball in their blood over there. Basketball in their blood. And we love to say UCLA is not a blue blood, but they are. But do you really want to go from UCLA to Louisville? Well, let's quit kidding ourselves, Dalton. Let's stop it. Crazy things can happen. I'm not sure that would be even the craziest thing this offseason to have happened to UCLA. I think the Chip Kelly thing's even wilder. Mick leaving would just be preposterous. I don't know. There would be no words, but there's no way. A huge buyout, already a system in place. You can suck 1 year. You can be mediocre. The Bruins didn't suck this year. What our expectation is, yeah, it sucked, but they did not suck this year. So I think Mick Cronin wants to stay. And now if there's a couple more years of this, you could see, hey, maybe there's some interest there. Is there the idea that Mick Cronin's overrated, right? Final Four, but it took an 11-seed Final Four team in a COVID year and a couple of second weekend trips, but maybe could have gone further with some of those teams. Injuries aside for two of those teams, right? All those years at Cincinnati, Murray State, is he an overrated? Is he getting the best out of his team in the regular season, not the postseason? Maybe he's carrying his team. The idea that Mick Cronin's overrated, I don't want to debate that right now. The numbers are the numbers. They speak for themselves, but I clearly think he's a fit at UCLA, right? Why is there more support for basketball? Obviously, there's the everything, but Chip Kelly brought it downhill. Mick Cronin is literally doing his best to be a walking billboard, putting it on the Meta Westwood, everything he can to support. Yes, he likes horses. There's the Kentucky Derby, Louisville, Kentucky, boom, match made in heaven, right? Okay, no. Mick Cronin, I believe, is the right leader for this program. The voice, the powerful voice to move things. Are his offenses not that fun to watch? Okay, when you got a team that's still learning and not knowing what to do offensively, yes. But I think he can go find some three-point shooting. He coaches up defense, and they're just about in every game. They don't get embarrassed. Outside of Salt Lake City, they get embarrassed sometimes, and maybe the Arizona game at the end of the year. They're not just putting out terrible efforts. His teams compete hard. He gets the maximum generally out of his team. Is it unfortunate that this team didn't come together? The Spain trip didn't come together with all the players. The international paperwork didn't come as quickly as you would have hoped to come into the season. A couple of injuries, him getting sick, everything just going a little bit weird from November to December, lack of confidence with the young team. You take your wound. You got to find a way to turn over to the next year and be even better. And I think there's a good portion of this roster, which we're going to talk about in Locked On UCLA in future episodes, that I think good pieces beyond a damn sting, right, from going to the NBA or not. There are pieces in this roster, I think, that can make this team legitimate top 25 by developing and staying. Those are my thoughts. Between the development of Stefanovic, between Dylan Andrews, some of the bigs staying and developing. Of course, they weren't as flashy as I would have promoted as I did in the summer or tried to read and learn about between NBA mock drafts 24, 25, or 26. But I think Mick's going to fix this. He should not leave. And I don't think we should be wanting him to leave. So Louisville fans, quit your Mick is the pick. I don't need to fall for that same old trick. All right? It's not the Christmas season. We're not saying, all right, it's the jolly old Saint Nick. No. All right? I'm going to stop being a prick. All right? So you see the like button, that subscribe button? Hit a click. Boom. All right, we'll be done with the rhymes because we got to move because we're running out of time. All right, next up, we're talking women's basketball. Bracket time. What are they doing? Tough? LSU and Iowa? That's a little brutal, but I think they can do it. And I'll tell you why next on Locked On UCLA. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out. A team that's pushed it further than the rest. Because just like any of the 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys are able to take it out in the rest. Because this week's March Madness bracket highlights brought to you by our friends at Nissan, we're highlighting the Auburn Tigers because they can only be best described as the Pathfinder. Thrilling to watch. They created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC, knocked off the Gators in the SEC Tournament Championship. They're set to make a run in the NCAA tournament. Take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, Fire TV, they're your destination for live games, highlights, in-depth analysis, because Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs. Remember the Fire TV stick? You got that, plug it in, you got access to millions of movies and TV episodes. And hey, whether you're watching opening day for the Dodgers, for other opening day for other teams, or the LA opening day for the Dodgers, college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have live TV. Because recently, Fire TV created Fire TV channels. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. You can dive into game analysis, March Madness, NBA, and a lot more, not to mention news, entertainment, and more. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should go to Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right. So the UCLA women, they got themselves a long wait, right? They had to wait a week to even get the bracket, more than a week. And then they have to wait another week before they actually play their first round game in the NCAA tournament, because they get CBU, California Baptist out of Riverside, who in recent years has completed a near undefeated season and won their conference a couple of times, but are finally postseason eligible in D1 time. The Bruins should be able to get through that. It's when you project further and you look at the bracket, although crazy things can happen in college basketball. If you look too far, you never know. The Bruins have LSU as potential Sweet 16. You have Iowa as a 1 seed. All these teams legitimately could have faced off in the Final Four. And only one of those teams, the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reeses, the Osbornes, and the Betts of the world, is going to make it possibly to a Final Four, let alone an Elite Eight. That's what we expect. Of course, there's crazy things that could happen. Yet, that between Iowa, UCLA, and LSU, the rematch of last year's national championship and a preseason number 2, probably a top 5 team in the country, I would like to argue even better, but as it currently stands and what UCLA's resume holds, top 5, top 8 in the country, the Bruins, all those teams, only one team can make a Final Four, let alone win the Final Four and make it to the championship. Now you can argue that for this team, the LSU is not as wacky and wild as they were the year before, right? Because one, they got cooked. Now it's a little different from opening night to now, but they got cooked by Colorado. UCLA went to Colorado and won, and they beat Colorado at home. Iowa, you could argue about the one lady team and Caitlin Clark, Stolke's a baller. That's way down the line for this team, but that's very tough. I think it's good that they avoided South Carolina. They're not in the SC bracket. Didn't think they'd do that. I have some hesitation about Texas being named a 1 seed over Stanford. I think that's utterly stupid, and they just didn't want to give the Pac-12 2 number 1 seeds. That's what it comes down to. And you can't give Stanford the 1 seed over SC because SC beat them twice and won the tournament championship. That's all whatever. I think it's dumb that the conference did not get 2 1 seeds. Either way, Texas and Stanford were probably going to be in the same bracket. What I'm surprised about is that initial projections, and that's why the projections, and that's not how the TV dollars work. That's not how the committee works. That UConn would have been in UCLA's bracket. Would have been a fun rematch, a year in which I don't think UConn is going to make it to a Final Four. They're good. They're solid. They can probably upset somebody and shock people. I just don't think this year, with Paige Bueckers coming back another year, I don't think this is the year with all their injuries that they would make it. So it would have been made more sense to take LSU out of this regional, go put them in a different regional. I think it would have made more sense to put LSU in the regional with Stanford and Texas if you're the NCAA, right? If you're making this bracket, it makes more sense to put LSU on the other side, because then you could potentially match them up with South Carolina in a Final Four or against Iowa or against UC, right? It would have made more sense instead of putting LSU, Iowa, and UCLA in the same bracket as your 1 through 3 seeds. It made more sense to put them on the other side, bring UConn over, get a rematch, see what happens, and that would have made more sense. And you could have maybe had in a dream world all sorts of things. Doesn't matter. They blew that. They did wacky things. That's what they always do. I'm fairly confident based on Similar matchups. Yes, I know LSU has taken and battled South Carolina literally with fisticuffs, 2 close battles, come close to knocking off South Carolina. I'm still confident the Bruins can get through the first weekend. That's important. It's very, very, very important for UCLA to get through the first weekend because remember, they barely got through Princeton at home in the early part of the season. And as you've learned from different sports, you just never know. I think with Lauren Betts, Charisma Osborne, you've got the talent, you've got the wisdom. Then you've got UNLV and Creighton, the 7 and 10 seeds. I think the Bruins can get past either the Rebels or the Blue Jays and find themselves from a Saturday night into the next round into the Sweet 16. I think that should be okay. I don't want to call it a cakewalk, but I would like to project a Sweet 16 bid is certainly in the cards for a UCLA team that's had their highest ranking in program history this year, that has their highest seed in program history this year. They're pushing for that 1 seed, pushing for that UConn previous era-esque dominance. They're close, but there's a lot more parity this year in women's college basketball. Just about anybody in the top 10 can probably sneak off a championship this year in a good run. I'm confident in the Bruins' abilities to compete with LSU for sure, compete with Iowa, and if you're facing off any of the Pac-12 teams, I think UCLA can compete with those teams, and I like UCLA's chances. I'm not afraid. If I see a team in front of UCLA, I'm not afraid. I was stunned to see LSU and Iowa and UCLA in the same quadrant of the bracket. I was stunned for sure, but I'm still confident in the Bruins' ability to do that, win. And it just kind of sucks that between all these talented players, I think you have the new little mini documentary series between Caitlin Clark, Kiki Rice, and I forgot the last player. And then only one of those players is going to go past the Elite Eight. Only one player, if everything goes according to plan. If everything goes according to plan. And I keep reading the hype of this tournament. You could have maybe moved it, maneuvered. You could have rigged it a little to get your stars, pushing it up, building up the rounds, building up the anticipation. But I guess the hype of the first round, you get some big matchups in the second round. The third round speaks for itself for the championship in the Final Four. We're excited. Okay. I think the Bruins can handle the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reeses, the LSUs, Kim Mulkey. They can handle that. They're a veteran. They're a squad that I think, honestly, is being not talked about a lot right now. They've forgotten because of Juju, because of Stanford. You look at Caitlin Clark, you see South Carolina, you see all sorts of talented teams across the board. A lot of Pac-12 teams sneaking in there too. And I think this UCLA team can compete. I'm going to get more into deeper numbers and specific matchups like CBU and the winner of the Creighton UNLV game. And hey, buy your tickets, go watch your UCLA team. This is the last chance to go see the seniors like Cam Brown, Charisma Osborne, and this year's team in person at home. The rest, they got to go fly to Albany, and then they got to go, hopefully, to Cleveland. So go check them out in person. Go support. Give some love because I'm ready to rock and roll with this team. It's March. We're dancing, and we're going to have lots of good, fun content speaking about this women's basketball team because they've been elite hyped. As much as the men were projected not to be top 25, the women have been getting a lot of love. Number two, right? Consistently thought of as a top-tier team, and they certainly are. With the addition of Lauren Betts this year, we're going to get into deeper numbers over future episodes leading into the matchup between them and the Lancers and eventually the Rebels and the Blue Jays. Next, UCLA hired new staffers. Cal Ford's in the portal. What does that mean for DeShaun Foster and company? Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting the big upset. I'm betting a big upset. Or you're betting on the one seed. You're going with the big dog. You're doing that. It's time to go dancing on America's ~1 sportsbook. New customers, right now, $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. $200, point spreads, money lines. Pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. All right, cruising on, last segment of the Locked On UCLA podcast. We're talking football. Spring practice is here. Remember how weird it was at spring practice, no spring game, whatever. Spring game's back. All the hype is back. Nobody's left into the portal. Oh. Yes, someone's left in the portal. That was all the hype touted about DeShaun Foster continuity, changes up the roster a little bit. Nobody had left. That spoke a lot. And then Kyle Ford, who started off at USC, came to UCLA. Things did not work as well. Probably didn't get the ball as much. Not sure how well it worked this year. Because if you thought J. Michael Sturdivant had a chance at leaving, whether it's the NFL or bouncing the portal and everything, Kyle Ford is the first one to leave. And I think that, I'm not saying that speaks to his character, but I think that speaks more of Kyle Ford, what he's looking for, than it says specifically about DeShaun Foster and UCLA. And I think there's a lot of talent already in the receiver room. Ford had to battle a lot of injuries at SC, had to battle just getting time for UCLA, getting on the field. And it didn't help with the quarterback struggles last year in 2023. But I do think Kyle Ford, it would have been awesome to see with this new staff what could have worked. But in the end, with the opportunity to transfer multiple times and be eligible, graduate, all those things, in his case, it was better to get on the field, whether he, in his mind, downgrades, goes for playing time, goes for more NAL guarantees, although I'm not sure, based on what he's done in his first 2 stops, he just wants to probably play, but he's in the portal. I'm not sure that says a lot about UCLA. I'm just not sure that's what is being said right now in the locker room. But what's important, though, is speaking about recruiting. You did get your first in the portal. First one since DeShaun Foster has been hired that any individual UCLA player that wasn't already in the portal hit the portal. But then DeShaun Foster and UCLA announced, the Mighty Bruins, if you look at their site, the new recruiting and personnel roles for Butler Benton, general manager of recruiting and personnel. Remember, you're trying to replace the Darren Ushers of the world, your general managers of the world. There you go. You got Chris Carter, who UCLA plucked from USC, assistant general manager of recruiting and personnel, as GM and assistant GM and director of player personnel, Stacy Ford. All right. So you've got a vast knowledge, right? You've got the director of recruiting from Washington State coming. That's Ford after a couple of years. You have Carter, who played in the NFL, served with the NFL's Players Association's The Trust. And then you've got your GM in Benton, who worked at Notre Dame. So people who worked in high-level spots, directors. He's filling out these places, these spots with guys who have experience. All right? So I'm hoping that, one, we get the same type of communication when it came to the booms from Ethan Young and the recruiting. We got the booms. Everybody knew UCLA's got to recruit, probably a little more talented, hopefully. I wonder what the communication style is, because I did like that communication style. The problem was they did that to get the hype up because UCLA would fall flat in the recruiting during the Chip Kelly era. So they got that up, and I thought with Darren Usher things would work, but Chip Kelly leaves. Usher's like, well, what's the point of this? I'm going back. And now there's a whole new energy. And you see the offers. You see guys keeping UCLA in their top 12s, top 10s, top 8s when they release their final lists. You got a commit in 25, a commit in 26 for DeShaun Foster, right? They throw an offer, the dude commits on the spot. I want to go to UCLA because there are guys out there that want to go to UCLA. You don't got to go spread the word. Come to UCLA. School, the most, right? There are football kids who want to go to UCLA, play in the Rose Bowl. It's a special place. Regardless of the atmosphere, it's going to be popping. It's going to be a little more energetic. It might not all be blue and gold, and that's on us as fans, supporters of the UCLA football program to go fix that, but there will be a new energy. I promise you that. And I think with the new staffers, everything, if people aren't in, they're out. And so far, very few have been out. Kyle Ford's the first. If it's a staffer, they've already gone. The new wave, the new energy, the new regime is here. It's here. And now UCLA is filling out its staff, personnel-wise, beyond the coaching staff. All right? And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this goes. So we'll talk more recruiting. We'll look and talk a little bit more about spring practice. What's next for the men's basketball team in the portal in Cronin? And then women's basketball's dancing. We'll talk more spring sports. I promised the spring sports, but it's been very exciting with the Chip Kellys, with the Cronin and UCLA Bruins this year, up and down. And the women's team is so dominant, we're going to talk about them. Sometimes in their own separate episodes coming up, because they deserve that. next on Locked On UCLA. And we'll talk some spring sports, right? Baseball, a little softball, and all that. All right, hands up. It clap time, UCLA fans. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. It's Zach signing off. Go Bruins.